The way that I think about Bryan, I had just moved to Fresno from San Diego and I didn't know anybody. And I went to a concert and I noticed this guy come through the door. And he's got a stack of flyers this thick. He knows everybody in the whole bar. And he comes by my table and he drops a flyer for the Inner Ear open mic. I was like, this is the dude I need to meet.
I like to think of myself as a spoken word artist that has the ability to reach people where page poets just can't. He called me mother. The thing that I do, it is trying to make a connection that's more than just page. Maybe a soul transfer.
So how do you know Bryan Medina?
I've known Bryan Medina since 1998. Bryan's a very generous and very humble person. Even when someone's praising him as a great artist or whatever, he's gonna push back and say, no, I'm just doing it for the love of it.
This student who came from a life of bad parents, bad school system, no one to love, sat in front of me in my classroom. Mr. Medina, you motherfucker.
Poetry saved my life. I was a severely depressed teenager whose father had passed away when he was 15, attempted suicide, went through all sorts of counseling that I didn't ever feel like did me much good. And then I walked into a creative writing class in high school, and this teacher said, put it on paper.
I've always been a teacher. I come from a family of teachers. And so I got together with Fresno Unified and I found a lovely home at Hoover High. I started writing when I was rather young, dare I say 6 or 7. And the reasons I started writing was I kind of got jumped into gangs. I needed a way to express myself because my father wasn't home. Though he was a great teacher behind closed doors, he was a bit of a monster. Well, he was a monster. And to help get my mom, who was sickly at the time, it was just me, my handicapped brother, and my baby sister, we needed money. And one way to do it was the gangs. I ran drugs. I'm not proud of that time, but I can say I helped us survive. All these emotions started flooding in me, my bad father, me running with the gangs, me trying to get over my disabilities.
When I realized that I could let it go, all of the turmoil that was going on in here and in here came out on the page.
It's like going into a trance, a duende. You find the right words and Bryan kind of dies away, and this other thing, Bryan Medina, the poet, spoken word guy, comes alive and takes over. And
I think the Inner Ear is one great example. It's one of the longest poetry open mics probably in the country. It's been going on since the early 2000s.
The Inner Ear was our first foray into the live spoken word genre by having an open mic.
The environment that has been created in places like the Inner Ear back in the day and now the Beatdown, I've never seen anybody go in there and speak and come away feeling like they weren't heard.
These people are brave enough to show up and tell their stories. Some heart-wrenchingly sad and desperate. Some hilariously funny that have you laughing so hard you fart. And you can't buy that. And you just sit there and just like, whoa. And I'll tell you what I did. I chose love, and I hugged him. And I hugged him tight, and because I hugged him so tight, he held on to me. We stopped everything.
I've had Bryan come up to the high school and perform at our open mics. I know that he understands the heart that I have for those kids.
And they give me the whole spiel. You were in that poetry class, you taught me how to express myself, and you taught me poetry, and these are like years after. I still get bamboozled by it. Just like, why me? Bryan Medina, on the other hand, he'll tell you, you know why they come up to you? Because you're real with them. You probably got beat down like them. You showed them that you can become somebody. You showed them how to write and mean it. That's what he would say. And I believe Bryan Medina. Bryan, he's just happy.